Hello, and welcome to another episode of Influence and Growth Mastery. Today, I have with me Michelle Rockwood with Unscripted Sales. Michelle, I'm so thankful to have you here on the podcast with me today. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so thrilled that you're here. We're going to open up today with allowing you to tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your business. And if you'd like, go ahead and tell us how you got started in your business.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I'm a heart-centered sales coach. I teach life coaches how to sell their coaching. Plain and simple, easy as can be. And I love teaching coaches while they're still in coach training. They're nice and fresh and they haven't learned all of these bad habits that we learn along the way. And I got into this on accident. I actually had someone overhear me telling a story at a party about how I raised. I know you're in fundraising as well. You do some nonprofit work. But a woman overheard me at a party sharing a story about how I raised $1 million over lunch for charity. And she leaned in and said, hot damn, how did you do that? Can you come sell for my coaching company? So I never intended to be a coach. I never intended to be a sales coach, but somebody overheard me at this party and I stepped into it. And it has been such a wild, fun ride ever since, now teaching life coaches and training and graduates how to sell their coaching for thousands. So yeah, it's a very weird job added to many of my lists of weird jobs over the years, but it's so rewarding as people can really make an impact in their coaching business and in other people's lives, as you know.
It's so amazing. I think it's so funny how we accidentally oftentimes end up in the businesses that we do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So how many years have you been in your business?
Well, I've been in sales for 15 years, but specifically teaching life coaches how to sell for the past 5 years. And like you said, all of these, it's weird how you end up where you are, but everything adds on, right? I did major gift fundraising for the Cleveland Clinic and law schools and nonprofits for women and children. I was in the Peace Corps and I sold real estate in Southern California. And I have all this experience, and one thing weirdly impacts the next. Like you wouldn't anticipate how nonprofit fundraising would impact teaching life coaches how to sell, but it's so similar. And there are so many similarities in the way that I worked for the Cleveland Clinic and that I teach life coaches how to sell their services. So it's so neat.
Yeah. So you talk about feminine sales. Tell us what that is.
Yeah, really taking a feminine approach to sales is a big part of what I teach. And I also wrote a book where I teach feminine sales. And this is something that, to be honest, didn't come naturally to me. And if I can I tell a short story?
Yes, please.
I had this coach and she was amazing. And one day she paused and she said, Michelle, you have a really masculine sales energy.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I had that same reaction that you're having on your face right now. I got hot all over from the tip of my head down through my chest. And I didn't know if she was insulting me, complimenting me. I was very confused. But I paused, I took a deep breath, and I said, tell me more. And she said, Michelle, you chase sales. You take calls at all times of the day. You discount. You give away your coaching. And you do anything to turn that maybe into a yes. And I was like, oh my God, she's so right. And so I really, from that point forward, started to tap into the feminine art of receiving. So if you think about, and there's wonderful things from a masculine sales energy, and it doesn't matter if you identify as a man or a woman or however you identify, this energy is really important on a sales call. And we want to take some of the masculine and we want to take some of the feminine and we want to roll them together in a way that feels really amazing to us. And now that's what I do. And that's what I teach before every sales call. And really, I did this before every chapter I wrote in my book. I do this before every email I send. You think about how do I want to feel? And how do I want the other person on the end of this call, on the other end of this Zoom line, to feel when they receive my words, when they receive the invitation, the opportunity to work with me? If they don't decide to work with me, if we don't agree, right? That's a real feminine approach. I'm not chasing and convincing. I'm seeing, is this the right fit for both of us? And even if it's not, I want them to walk away feeling amazing.
Yes.
And that's the kind of energy I want to bring. And I do bring to every sales call. And that's what I teach my students. So there's so much to it, but that kind of gives you a little bit of a glimpse into feminine sales energy and how it rolls into the masculine as well.
Yeah. So wow, that's such an awesome way to look at that. I guess, her bringing that out as a masculine way. And, oftentimes I'm going to say maybe we're taught that.
Oh, absolutely.
We're taught to teach that. So you talk a little bit there about how that's the opposite, but go more in depth about how that's different.
From a masculine sales energy?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, just like you said, we are taught the masculine sales energy, even subconsciously from the beginning. So when you really tap into your feminine sales energy, and I guess what you might be asking, right, is how does this come into play specifically on a sales conversation? And, it really comes into when we think about how we want to feel, we need to take a step back and we need to think about when we schedule those calls, right? So if you're scheduling a call at 5:00, but that's when your family sits down for dinner, that's never going to feel good. And you're never going to want to serve a client at that time anyway. So just really kind of zooming back and thinking, how do I want them to feel? I want to set up boundaries and I want to let them know from the beginning that I'm different. I don't work with everyone. I don't take calls at any time of the day, and they should expect a different, exceptional experience from me. And so even in the way we set up our sales calls can really start to set the mood for how we want to be treated and how we will treat others as well. And that masculine sales energy, there's so much to learn from it. But whenever I'm kind of talking about this, I always think about my husband and myself and how we pick out furniture. And my husband he's like out for the hunt. He's just going to go out to the store, kill it, drag it home and throw it in the corner. And I want to think about it. I want to price it out. I want to think about how our families will experience that couch. He just wants to get it done. But there are some things that the masculine sales energy brings to the table that we do not want to leave behind. Masculine sales energy is bold, is brave. It speaks the truth. It isn't offended easily. It lets things just slide right off their back, right? And so when we can really, we've leaned too far to the masculine, right? Through movies and what we've been taught and car salesmen and all these things. But times are changing. And women are making the buying decisions now, and people want to feel and be treated differently. And there's a lot of competition more than ever before. And so really tapping into and thinking about these masculine and feminine sales techniques and really how we want to show up. And as coaches too, like a sales team, they can kind of do some of these more masculine techniques and get away with it because they have another call coming in, another call coming in, another call coming in. But with coaches, typically the average coach is taking 2 to 10 sales calls a month. And so really working smarter, not harder, and enrolling everyone you speak to instead of a sales team would be okay with 25%. Typically that's a good enrollment rate. The individual coach really needs to be enrolling almost every person they talk to in order to have a profitable and substantial business.
Well, a couple of things that come to mind as you spoke is setting some non-negotiables, as a female, setting those non-negotiables, knowing not to call at dinner time. Because I think if you call it dinner time, the first thing you're going to get immediately is an objection, because that's not a good time to call.
Yes.
Calling in the morning time when it's time to get your kids off to school, it's not a good time to call.
Yeah.
Calling at bedtime is not a good time to call. But setting those non-negotiables, those are discussions that I'm having more and more with women, is they're setting those boundaries today. They know they're not going to work past 5 o'clock. They don't want to work on the weekends. The male, it doesn't matter to them. They're on pretty much 24/7.
Yes,
they see the prey. They see the prey and they're after it.
Yes.
And
it's important how we feel, because it matters how we show up to the next call, the next email, the next post we do, even the clients that we enroll. So with coaching, you're really setting yourself up for a long-term relationship, and it starts on the sales call, not that first coaching call.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's very important.
You let people reschedule all the time, or you let them miss a call or show up late or not turn on their camera and meet you face to face. Then you're not setting yourself up for success, and you're not showing them what it's like to treat themselves with respect, right? You want to honor their time as much as you're honoring your own as well.
Well, I think that makes me come up with the next question that I want to ask you is, what is selling with integrity?
Yeah, absolutely. So selling with integrity, and if you're an ICF aligned coach, really adhering to the core values of, the credentialing that you have, for sure. And there's two things that I like to talk about here. And one is to understand your inherent bias. And when somebody comes to the call that does not talk like you or look like you, I always invite people that I'm managing on sales teams to take an extra minute, to take a beat, to do a check, and to spend some time digging in and understanding the client's true problem and actual desires, and understanding that they might not line up with the vision that you had exactly. It might look a little bit different. And when you can just notice this, it is not, I wouldn't want to say easy, but it's just simply noticing it can often remedy the problem here. And you'll make that shift just by noticing it. The other thing with selling it in integrity is always being a truth teller. So always not lying or sharing false truths, really being honest in your words, in your actions. If you say you're going to show up, those types of things even. And then also with pricing, I really like clear and transparent pricing. And if you're discounting for one group, to really make sure that that information is available to all. And I'm not suggesting any specific rule, but simply transparency in your pricing, and that one person doesn't join your $20,000 coach certification program on Tuesday and somebody else join on Thursday and pay $15,000. Doesn't feel good, and it's not good for business.
Not at all. Not at all. So, Michelle, what does it mean to sell how we serve?
Yeah, well, when we talked about the coaching container itself, and I always teach people to serve in 3, 6, or 9 month coaching client partnerships versus single sessions. So you're really creating a transformation versus a transaction. And that is easier to sell, but this is an entire experience that someone is having, where I don't know about you and your clients, right? But I expect mine to show up on time. I expect them to do the work, not just because I value success rates, right? I value my time and I want to feel good. Your success is my success. And I only want to work with people that are really serious. And so to serve a client during that sales conversation, I'm setting up all those boundaries that we talked about. I'm only hosting calls at certain times for a set period of time. We have 45-minute calls. I'm expecting them to come dressed, ready with their camera on, just like you set the parameters for this podcast here today, right?
That's right. That's
Show up
right.
with your camera on, you be ready, all of those things. And that invites me to show up, be ready, and be my best self. So when you really, people always kind of throw out that cliche, like sales is service. yes, it is service, but it's service because you're showing them how you expect to be treated, how they should expect to be treated in your company. And you're also learning the sales conversation, just like you learn the coaching conversation, so that you can help them make a choice, a decision as to their next step. And that's really, really important. A choice with or without you, a yes or no, right? You're not trying to get a yes at all costs. That's manipulation. It feels gross. It feels icky. But to really serve a client, you say, hey, I have an incredible opportunity to work with me. And I truly in my heart think you'll be amazing. Or I respect you enough to share with you that I don't think I'm the right fit for you. But the good news is I have 3 resources and I have 2 people that I want to send you to that I know can serve you better. And that is absolutely of service that absolutely feels amazing. And that's a great way to get some incredible referrals as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, to me, when I'm able to do that, when I'm able to see that maybe I'm not the best fit for them, but I know Johnny down the street has the tools to better assist that individual and be able to connect them and see them do business. I feel like I had just as much success in that interaction as they are having because I was able to hand them off to help each other. And, that's rewarding because what happens is when success happens there, you now have 2 people who are going to remember you and refer you in the future. So that's a win-win situation.
It really invites the coach who's selling their program to get curious as to whether or not that person is right for them. And that's a real shift in energy from, oh my gosh, look at me. You want to join my program? It's great. It's amazing. Let me share all the things with you. Yes. And it's a completely different energy shift. So absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Can someone who hates sales, Michelle, ever get good at it? or even do you think that they could turn that hate into a love relationship with sales?
I do. But they need to, there's one qualifier, they need to possess heart. And by that, I mean, they need to care truly and deeply, honestly about their client's success and not just about making money, but how they make money. The sales call can be taught. I can teach anyone the sales conversation and how to enroll someone as long as they truly care. And you have to have that quality. There's just no BSing it. It's not possible.
Yes, completely agree.
And they also have to be willing to learn and be vulnerable and be messy and mess up. And that it's not negotiable, right? If you're not willing, we talked before this podcast started, I'm so scared about public speaking, but I have a big speaking event coming up with the ICF here that I told you about. And I'm totally scared like crazy, but I do it and I work to get better.
Yes.
And so if you are committed to doing it and to serving your client, right? This is a part of the service is you learning the sales conversation.
Yes.
Unlike the coaching conversation, I can teach you the sales conversation in a couple of days in my course. It's not too challenging. You do have to practice probably about a month before you're exceptional. Whereas in a coach certification program, that could take 3, 6, 9 months or more to really feel proficient at the coaching call. A sales conversation should not take you that long, but you do need to learn and you do need to practice it.
Yeah. I think with anything, Michelle, people often start off nervous about things, but the more you do it, the more you practice, the better that you're going to get at it. And whether they hate it, maybe sometimes it's not that they hate it as it is that they fear it.
Yes.
They fear the failure. They fear the success or whatever. And I was the same way with podcast. When my team wanted me to start podcasting, I kept saying, I don't know how. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And then when I finally started it and did the first one. I loved it. And now I prefer podcasting over anything else.
Really?
So, oh yes. Oh yes. I could podcast 8 hours a day. Oh yes. I could do that 8 hours a day. If I could just find the way to monetize it. And I just this past week took a mastermind course on monetizing podcasting. So yes, I'm all into learning all of that. But so what should our ultimate goal of a sales call be?
Yeah, well, we alluded to it a little bit before. The ultimate goal of a sales call, spoiler alert, is not to get a yes. Your goal of a sales call is to bring a client to a choice. Yes or no. And we really want to do that. We don't want to maybe. Maybes are the worst. We want to help a client make a choice, a decision as to their next best step. This is the number one difference between a sales call and a coaching call. On a coaching call, you're helping a client get clarity, understand the problem that they're having. Let's say it's around your marriage, and you start to dive into why it's happening and all the things. On a sales call, even if they're getting coaching around a marriage, you're not going to coach them around the problem that they're having. You're going to coach them around the decision to get help to solve the problem that they're having. So that is really the learned skill of a sales conversation. And your job, like we said, is to help them to make a choice, yes or no, in one 45-minute call. And that feels really good, as opposed to I'm on this call to convince you, to chase you, that masculine sales energy, to join my program. And here are all the reasons why. Instead, we want to get curious, understand where they are, understand where they want to go, and help present the opportunity to work with us if it feels like a fit for both of us.
One of the things that I've learned, Michelle, and you can tell me your thoughts, because I know you've written this book, is building a relationship during this process of having this 45-minute conversation. Is if I'm not focused specifically around making, I'll say, and I'll put quotes around it, making a sale, but getting to know the individual, as you talked a little bit about earlier, but getting to know the individual, understanding their problem.
Yes.
And really diving deep into what's going on in their life. What are their goals? What are they dreaming about? But really getting to know that individual and building that relationship with them, I have a much greater opportunity of closing a deal with them than I do in just coming to the call and making it all about making a sale. You have any thoughts about that?
Being curious is the number one quality, right? I really want to understand why you're on the call with me, what it is you desire. And I'll stick in that understanding section of the sales call until I get it. And I'll say, I'm sorry, but I just can't move on. I don't understand.
Yeah.
What exactly, right? Tell me again. I'm just not getting this, right? And we go through it. And then boom, it hits me and we get to it.
Yeah.
But it's really that setup of the sales call so that there's that trust and safety. And that's what you're describing, right? The client, the prospective client has this level of trust and safety with you that you've established through all of your good practices of how you set up the sales call and the conversation you're in, and a clear understanding that you're not just here to convince them of something. And then, like you said, they start to open up. And they start to tell you their hopes and their dreams about what it is they desire. Sometimes people tell me things on a sales call that they've never told anyone.
Yes.
And sometimes they've never even told themselves, like they've never admitted it.
Right.
And that's like, wow, talk about service. That's an incredible epiphany, no matter what happens after we hang up that phone.
Right. It's the art of questioning.
Yes.
The art of questioning. So on the other end of the spectrum of questioning, what about overcoming objections?
Yeah, great question. Great question.
Yeah.
So objections, you should not actually get on a sales conversation.
If you do it good, if you do it right.
You should get buying questions.
Yes.
And when you start to get buying questions, you, hot damn, should get very, very excited because that means someone is considering working with you.
Yes.
And understanding and knowing the things that are going through a client's head. Will I have time? Can I afford this? Will this actually work? What is this going to cost me? You should have talked about that way ahead in the sales conversation if you're doing your job properly, which is why you need to be trained on the sales call. How do we bring up the cost of marriage counseling? You need a little bit of coaching around that. It's not that easy, right? But had you asked me years ago, you would have found out that I spent over $500 a month on counseling. It was $100 and something, $150 a week for the counseling itself. It was taking time off work to drive up to Boulder. It was $50 a week in babysitting alone, and so on and so forth. But had you not been skilled to ask me those questions, you wouldn't have even brought up money, which is such a gift because you help somebody understand the actual true cost and pain of their problem, right? There's a real monetary cost to everything. Right. So really overcoming objections is about hosting a proper, embodied, aligned sales call in the first place. And then secondly, when you get those buying questions, and you better hope you do, that you smile, you take a deep breath, you lean in, you use your incredible coaching skills to hear the words underneath the words, right? And you use those detective work to go, what are you really asking? What are you really looking for here? I always use the example of my little boy, Silas. He always goes, Mom, I hate you. I hate you. And I go, I'm so sorry. You need a hug, huh? You need a timeout. You're looking for some attention from me. He's doesn't truly hate me. Right.
Right.
But when you can listen with soft ears and go, what are they really asking when they say, I'm not sure if I have the time? How can I answer the real question and have a really thoughtful and honest conversation about that? And in the book, I teach you some specific ways to open up those conversations, right? Because that's the learned skill, is how do you not answer that question directly, but seek to understand even further and have a true open and honest conversation.
That's really good. That is really good. So what's one common mistake that people make
on a sales call? Well, I would say for coaches and that's why I've implemented the 45-minute rule. Again, I teach life coaches pretty specifically. We really let clients go into story, and we think we're being kind and nice and friendly by letting them go on and on and on about all the rambling, horrible things that are going on in their life. But when you're on a 45-minute schedule, you need to keep the train on the track. And this has been a really great tool for clients to watch the clock and go, okay, it's time to break rapport, say the client's name, and move them on to the next step. Oftentimes, that's an envisioning exercise where we help a client step into what it is that they desire. But depending on where you are in the sales conversation, especially speaking to coaches or service providers, really taking command of the call, not control, but command of the call by saying somebody's name and moving them along through the sales process.
That is great. That is great. Because sometimes we do allow them to ramble on because we feel they need to just get some things off their chest.
This is not a coaching call.
That's not a call. That's exactly right. That is exactly right.
It's not in service.
Yes.
To the client.
Yes. Yeah. Is there anything, you've written this book, Soulful Selling.
Yeah. Here I have a copy of it right in front of me.
Yes.
It's called Soulful Selling, a better way to yes for heart-centered coaches. And really specific to the life coach in training or the service provider or a graduate that's looking for some support around sales. Although a colleague of mine picked it up and she's been in sales for years and she was like, I was just in a rut. She brought it down to the beach and the next week she sold 7 7 programs. Yeah. She was like, it was like, I needed the defibrillator, and it just really helped me get out of my funk. So it's really fun. Just a fun read with great stories that really, and practical tips, everything we've talked about today and more in depth for you to read and reread and implement it as you go.
That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. I need to finish your book. I've got to finish your book. I have it and I've got to finish it. So, Michelle, what is one tip from your book that you would share with the group today that you feel would move them forward in their sales opportunities?
Absolutely.
Putting you on the spot here.
That's okay. If there's one thing that you can take away from this conversation and implement, Zig Ziglar says sales is a transfer of feelings, right? Of energy.
Yeah.
That could not be more true. So the words you say matter less than how you feel about your offer and how curious you are about the client on the other end. So before your sales call, I really invite you to get embodied in some way, whether that's doing jumping jacks, saying a prayer, running around the block, walking your dog, singing a song, right? Whatever you need to do to really step into and tune into your body and your breath. And then when you come on to that sales call, release the outcome and focus on the person in front of you and how you want to feel and how they want to feel, and you can't go wrong. So stepping into that as you get onto your next sales call, that embodiment work right before the sales call is truly going to serve you and help you feel amazing and help your client move forward.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Tell us, what is the name of your podcast?
Yeah. Joyful Selling as a Life Coach is the name of my podcast, and more fun things from my book to help life coaches step into and to think differently. I'm on a mission to redefine the sales thing and to take it back. No more about the masculine energy of chasing down the sale, 7 calls to make a yes. There's a better way, and a way that feels amazing and is in service of your clients, and that works. And so in the podcast, we dive into all of those things and lots of things that are pulled directly from my book as well.
That's wonderful. That's one of the things since I've met you, how many months ago? 5 months ago.
Yeah.
Is the energy that you bring behind selling. I don't know that I've ever met anybody so excited about selling as I have you. And I love it. I love your energy. I love, I just love what you bring to the table. Your coaching, yes.
Thank you so much. It's life changing.
One
year ago, I was at a conference and a woman ran up to me, and I was a little taken aback, gave me this big bear hug. And she said, "Thank you so much." And she was referring to the sales conversation we had had a year prior.
Wow.
There were tears. She was crying. I was crying. And she was telling me all the things that have changed in her life since that sales call.
Wow.
It matters. Our work matters. Coaching is an incredible gift that changes lives, saves marriages, ends marriages, starts businesses, ends businesses. It's absolutely life-changing. And it's such a gift. So yes, you're right. I'm excited.
Wow. Well, to change one life. I heard something on, I can't remember, Michelle, if it was a podcast or if it was just, alive. I can't remember what it was on, but somebody said that they hear everybody come on and they talk about how they want to change 1 million lives. They want to change 5 billion lives, whatever. They have these big goals of how And he said, nothing wrong with having big goals about how many lives you want to change. But he said it made him think, what about just changing one life?
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that too is so powerful, to just change one life. And so what it made me start thinking about is changing one life in sales. What can they go impact? Having the impact to keep one person from drinking alcohol for 5 years, helping one drug addict get off drugs. I mean, I sat and I thought about that. It about makes me cry right now. And so the impact of 1 million is powerful, but the impact of just one, just gives me chills and brings tears to my eyes right now. And so I thought, dream big, but also have the mindset of changing just one. And so that one lady who ran up to you and gave you that big hug, I guarantee you, she is thankful for you today. And I'm thankful that you did that. So in closing today, anything else that you want to share? You've been impactful.
That's all I got. That's all I got.
Oh, you
are incredible. And I'm actually going to take what you said there with the one, and that's really going to be my intention, my embodiment, my mindful exercise before my next sales call. What if it's just that one person on the other line? What if that's the one who gets off drugs, who stays in a marriage, who leaves him? And think about all the people that are impacted as a result of that one. What if we all did that? What if forget 5 million, right? Yes, this dream that we probably learned in a mastermind, right? That sounds like a good soundbite. What if we just impact one person? I love that so much. And that's what I'm going to take with me.
It has impacted me. I mean, I have been thinking, how am I going to show up more? How am I going to show up more? How am I going to show up more? And when I heard that, I just was like, Tonya, show up just to impact one. That's all you need to do is show up to impact one.
Oh, and I love that so much. I think
I do too.
Title this podcast today.
That's my mission every day now, is impact one.
I love it. I love it. Can I tell people where to get my book?
Yes, please do.
You can get my book, Joyful Selling, A Better Way to Yes for Heart-Centered Coaches, at michellerockwood.com. In fact, you can read chapter 1 there for free, which is amazing. And of course, Amazon. And as you mentioned, my podcast, if you go follow me, Joyful Selling as a Life Coach is the name of the podcast. And that will be a great way to get started.
Go ahead and tell them about finding you on LinkedIn.
Yes, find me on LinkedIn for sure, please.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the only social media I really hang out on. Do you hang out on any others?
I do. I actually am trying to hang out on all of them right now. And I'll tell you, it's very hard. It's very hard.
Yeah.
So I admire you for sticking to the one.
Yes, sticking to the one. What is the number today? Yeah, just LinkedIn is really where I hang out. And yeah, absolutely. Please DM me and connect with me there if you want to talk more about feminine sales or any of the work we're doing here.
Yes. And we will put the link to Michelle's book in the show notes, as well as her LinkedIn. And for all of you that are listening, please share this podcast, subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. We would appreciate that. Michelle, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. And that is the end of this podcast today. Until the next time, we will see you again on another episode soon. Goodbye.